Greetings, everybody, and welcome to this edition of the OTT.X Wednesday webinar series, where it is, as always, our privilege to share with you the experience, insights, and wisdom from the people that are shaping the OTT CTV industry. Today, we are joined by Oz Krakowski, Chief Business Development Officer for Deepdub.ai. Oz is going to join us for a presentation about how AI can elevate content and provide a competitive advantage in today's dynamic media landscape. Welcome, Oz.
Hi, Eric.
This morning, I guess afternoon maybe where you are.
Well, 12 p.m. for me, so right about lunchtime.
Yeah.
Couldn't be a better, a better time frame.
Yeah, well, if we hear your stomach rumbling, we'll know why.
Exactly. Well, thank you for having me. Thank you so much for having me.
All right, well, take it away.
Perfect. Well, let me quickly share my screen. Start by sharing my screen. Make sure I have the audio on. All right. So, hello and welcome, everyone. Oh, let me make sure that I also see it here. There you go. Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. We are going to talk about, to discuss how content owners, channel operators, streaming services, and others can leverage generative AI for competitive advantage in the media and entertainment industry. My name is Oz Krakowski. I'll be your host on this presentation. A few of the things that I will cover today are how AI is revolutionizing post-production workflows for faster turnaround times and greater creative control and localization. I will talk about the recent technological advances in content localization and how they're put into use. We will explore the cost benefits and scalabilities, specifically around AI dubbing. I have a pretty exciting case study that I'd like to share with you as well today, and we will talk about that and what it actually signifies and how it can be applied in many cases, many other cases. And finally, we will also discuss how it all impacts global reach. And I will finish with some predictions. So definitely you want to stay for the end. It's going to be very interesting and exciting. And without further ado, I'll go ahead and start by giving a quick introduction about Deepdub. For those who don't know, Deepdub is focused on AI localization for the media and entertainment industry. We've powered the creation of over 2,000 hours of dubbed content. We work with many industry leaders. Some of them are listed here, many are not. Our content is distributed and streamed all over the world in many languages. In fact, we were among the first to coin the term AI localization. When the company started back in 2019, generative AI was not a common term. It was mostly, we mostly refer to it as deep learning, right? Deep dub. But we created workflows and technologies to address the need for the media localization or content localization in the media and entertainment specifically. And we introduced the first full-length feature film dubbed using AI voices, synthetic voices, already back in 2021 when people thought, it's still not mature. We already did it. In fact, that's an interesting anecdote, the first live-action TV series dubbed on Hulu into English was a series that, a legendary television series that we dubbed back in 2023. 2024, it's all about scaling up, taking everything that we created and we mastered and scaling up. And in the next slides, I'm going to show you where we're going with that, right? We finished 2023 with the strikes coming to an end. A lot has been discussed at the end of 2023 and going into 2024 about generative AI and how it's going to impact our lives. Specifically in media and entertainment, it came with a lot of buzzwords. There was this low cost promise, the promise of improving the time to market, the quality, and even scale as the next pillar. And all of it is built on top of generative AI. And my question to you is, how are you using generative AI to scale up your business? All right, so I'd like to give you a few ideas, but before we actually dive into that, I'd like to show you at least one way. And I'd like to introduce you to Zoe from Ace Entertainment, and let's hear how they use AI and what they find in AI localization that works for them, and we'll analyze it after.
The most pleasant surprise was that our catalog is mainly with action, horror, and thriller movies, where you have a lot of strong emotions such as cries and yellings. And so far, all the tests we had with AI was not very compelling. It wasn't really human-like, you know. And here the surprise was really strong because we could hear a good scream. It was a really pleasant surprise. Me, I'm convinced that you know, like of the complementarity between AI and human interactions. I do believe we cannot stop technology from evolving, and in the industry needing more and more efficient ways of producing content. We consider this type of dubbing, human monitored AI dubbings, as a true complementarity to traditional dubbings, which we still use as well and obviously value. In our case, which is a market, which is the VOD business, we know that access to AI in our project has been beneficial. And these new tools strongly transform our operations and allow us to enlarge our international reach.
All right, so we'll stop here. Let's unpack what works, in fact, for Zoe and Ace Entertainment. So she mentioned we could hear a good scream. I would say this is quality. You know, in the past, people still thought that, you know, AI voices may not sound human-like. I think we're past that point. The question whether AI can create a human-like voice is no more a question. However, the question that remains is, are we able to use, do we have the right workflow to use it at the right moment? Does it convey the right emotion at the right point in time within the context? And that's a bigger question, right? AI can generate today the majority of human emotions, but how we use it will determine the end quality eventually, whether we believe it or not, whether it's immersive or not, and in fact, in the end, you know, how it translates into our bottom line, of course. What else she says? She said the industry needs more and more efficient ways of producing content. Oh, I can agree with that more. You know, cost efficiency drives scale, and we can deliver that with AI. We're not tied to a recording studio anymore. It makes things a little bit quite more efficient. She also mentioned human monitored AI dubbing, a true complementary to traditional dubbing. By all means, when you choose an AI partner, you want to make sure that, you know, they have a very clear code of ethics. They don't disregard the human creativity in the process. Going back to the workflow that I mentioned before, there's still manual work in the process to make sure that where AI is used, it's being used correctly or properly to the specific intended result. And we'll see how it actually everything boils and connects slightly later in this presentation. And lastly, she mentioned allows us to increase our international reach, increased exposure, drives unlocking new revenue streams. Definitely something that, you know, is that AI localization and you know, brings to the table. We'll discuss that as well. And what I'd like to do in the next few slides is to try to understand how all of this, everything that works for Ace Entertainment and for Zoe, how, you know, what is it consisting of, right? I'd like to kind of like make sure that we're all speaking the same terminology. And for that, I'm going to dive a little bit into the details. I promise to keep it, you know, not too technical, but just a little bit of that type of detail so we can speak in the same language. Localization in a nutshell is the art or the process of taking audiovisual content from one language to another or to many. I just chose English or Spanish because it's very common, but it could be any language into any other or other languages, right? What's in the middle is the media localization. There's this blob that I'd like to zoom into and see what it consists of. And we'll say that it consists of, there are the basic building blocks of media localization, the transcription, the translation, the voices, whether recorded or generated, the human adaptation, the creativity part, and the quality check, and of course, the mix. The technologies that generative AI brings to the table complement all of that, whether that's the speech to text, the ability to complement the transcription, provide an uplift, the ability to create the voices using speech-to-speech technology or text-to-speech. Another exciting technology is the M&E, the music and effect split, the ability to take a full mix and split it into the dialogue stem and the music and effect. And we'll see how that applies in a second. And lastly, a pretty exciting tool that we have, the ability to control accents, to give another bit of authenticity to the end result, or sometimes even correct, sometimes just remove an accent to make it a little bit more appealing to the target audience. So I'd like to take those building blocks and see how we can apply them to a specific use case. And the use case I chose to show today is how to take deep library content and localize it. And why is it an issue? Because it comes with some challenges, right? The first thing is the assets. You may not have all the assets. They may be in lower quality. The translation may be complex. And more than that, it could be cost prohibitive. License fees are pretty high compared to how much you can or how fast you can regain them. And you may be limited with your ability to distribute that content because it's already locked in certain regions to someone else. So the question is, how do you maximize the potential that is locked within your content into your target audience? And for that, I actually wanted to share with you this very exciting case study. We've partnered with Golden Media Group, a company that is focused on bringing Japanese content into the US market. It's a very specific type of content that is normally catering to a type of, to a core hardcore fans of the genre. And we took a film, this is an iconic film, it's called The Lone Wolf and Cub, a Japanese film from 1984. It follows a very successful TV series with the same name. And it basically tells the story of Ito Ogami and his son Daigoro. They survive a deadly attack on the family. Basically, everyone in the family is murdered, and he's being framed for treason, and is on a quest to avenge his family and his reputation, and becomes a lone assassin. The challenges, guess what? The characters speak in an old Japanese dialect. The speech-to-text models are not trained on that type of language, and we had about 15% success rate with traditional speech-to-text technologies. So we had to decide how we progress with that, not to mention the fact that it comes with close to no assets, high definition video, and that's pretty much it. Let me show you a quick scene that we cut out of it. To give you context on the scene, this is basically after he was already framed for treason, and now Ito Ogami needs to make a choice together with his surviving toddler, what they're going to do, whether they're going to become is bringing his son with him to become assassins, or is sending his son out to the prairie to his aunt. All right, so let me run this.
よいか大五郎、手まり、胴たぬき、このいずれか一つを選ぶのだ。 野牛に受けた恥辱を注ぐため指導を捨てて誠地獄の道に生きる鬼と化すのだ。
Temari Ball. No Tanuki sword.
Which one will you choose?
Choose the path you want to take from now on.
All right. Dagno. An assassin. An assassin and a child come. This is our way of life, Dago.
All right, so yeah, it's a very fun moment in the film that has a lot of exciting fighting scenes. Let's talk about what we did here. So the video basically represented several of the aspects of the challenges in terms of the M&E split. This diagram basically shows what we took out of those building blocks that I presented earlier and where we applied AI compared to where we decided that AI is not the right choice for that type of content for this specific project. So for example, speech to text, go to manual transcription. Translation, use more human effort in the process to make sure to adjust the translation not only to the context of the film, but to the time era. There are a lot of names, Japanese names, that needed to be kept as is, but also pronounced correctly in the output. Creation of the voices, we wanted them to try to match the ambience of the film. So there is no point in making it sound like in a new production. It needs to actually fit within the ambience of the film. We applied human adaptation, and of course, we did a manual mix in the end. M&E split in this case was the enabler, the ability to extract the original dialogue, keeping the music and effect, the original music and effect, and applying a new voice from text on top of it and creating the final result. Overall, this has aired less than 2 weeks ago already on YouTube. You please go and watch the entire film. I looked at it yesterday and I noticed that it has 8K views compared to 25K views for the subtitled version, which means basically that now you have new viewers, new audiences that would otherwise watch or will not watch it or may not watch it because the core fans of the genre would probably stick to the subtitles anyway. Now there is a choice. All right. So this is this case study, and the question is, okay, it's one project. How do we take it and how do we scale it up into multiple projects? So I showed you those building blocks, and the question is, we need to scale it up. I cannot do a single project. I need to deal with tens, hundreds, maybe thousands of titles. What if I put everything inside a platform? I wrap it inside a laptop. And now everything is in the cloud. I don't need a studio. I can immediately take that and scale it up pretty fast over multiple people working at the same time. There's still the human element in it. I am still able to create consistency across projects. I'm still able to monitor everything, but I augmented their capabilities to be able to do it from a single laptop. And now I basically unlocked new possibilities. Now I can start talking about localizing massive amounts of content. I can talk about localize at high quality and lightning speed. Just to give you a sense what I'm talking about 250 hours that we can dub in 8 weeks. This is a fit that is not many dubbing studios, definitely traditional, can achieve. And we're on track to quadruple that before the end of the year. Over 1 million views in 30 days over dubbed content with high rates of audience acceptance basically tells you the story. In the end, catering to your audience needs is with a positive, outlook on ROI, definitely increases your reach and increases your viewership of your content. How do you take it from here? How do you scale up to your advantage, right? A lot has been discussed in the past year about the fast channel, the fast market in the US, in Latin America. Fast in the US is in North America is pretty saturated. A lot of channels already launched. Latin America, it's getting good traction, but the European fast market is still, up for grabs. There's a lot of opportunities there. Not to mention, from what we see in the customers that we talk to, Japan is definitely one of the next big markets, and offers great opportunities over there as well. Let's talk about the streaming service itself. The genre-specific OTT business is alive and kicking. We talk a lot about fast, but SVOD and AVOD, it's still there are still a lot of opportunities. You're serving your viewers with a certain amount of content, but the question you always need to ask yourself: are you offering them enough variety to keep them on your platform? I think that's a great and important question, because it's all about retaining them and keeping them engaged on your platform. If they came to see one show, they'll probably be gone at the end of the term. You need to keep that flow of content coming in to keep them engaged. And the last thing is, there's just a lot of great scripted content that is locked to a specific region. We constantly talk, when we talk about AI dubbing, we constantly talk about how good it is for unscripted and voiceovers. Absolutely, it's great for that. Great applications. We've ourselves dubbed, channels over channels. A lot of companies are engaged in this specific use case or use of AI workflows to increase reach. But there is more than that. There is a lot of scripted content that is waiting to be localized into new regions, and that will basically take your either content that you already have in your libraries, or content that you are licensing, and allow you to increase your reach, just like what we saw with the Golden Media Group. And the question that I have for you now that you should be asking yourself is, how can you strategically unlock and diversify content to tap into new markets and keep your audience engaged across different regions? When we talk about different regions, look at the entire world map. We already know that dubbing works in specific regions. Are you in all of these regions? What would what will enable you to get into regions where you're not broadcasting today? What is the barrier for you to actually try and see if it works for you? All of these are, I think, questions that are worth discussing and engaging on, and definitely something that you should be asking yourself if you reach the limit in terms of how many of the limit of the content that you have in that specific language, and now you're thinking about your next phase of growth. All right, so I'm almost done, but I'd like to give you a quick take into what's next in AI for the media and entertainment. Kind of like an outlook. I opened the window into the next 3 to 12 months. 3 months it's pretty short, because some of the things are already happening, already in motion. But I think it's pretty exciting to know what are the next big things, things, and I'm happy to actually explore it, in the next in 6 or 12 months again, to see where which of those have been achieved. So the first thing that I have here is animation and anime. By definition, animation, definitely if it goes if it's kids animation, it needs to be dubbed. So the fact that you're not dubbing your animation content means that you're blocked by the origin language of that content. Anime is actually a pretty exciting evolution of that. That was, I would say, AI was pretty limited in capabilities, but not anymore. We're able to deliver pretty significant results with anime. We're going to see more and more anime and animation that is traveling across different regions, across different languages. Audio descriptions, already very common in the US, but it's coming into Europe. It's coming to Europe as a requirement pretty soon. We're expecting 2025 to be for it to be mandatory, which means that this could be a differentiator. If you're a content channel operator in Europe, you're able to provide audio descriptions, then that might be a differentiator that will bring you new audiences in that region on top of others who don't. Dubbing reconstruction is a very exciting capability and use case. There are cases where you have access, you have library content where you have access to the original dubs, but that content was aired on linear originally. And as you may know, sometimes in linear, definitely linear, they had to edit the content, remove 45 minutes become 44 or 43 because they had to remove to give some time for commercials, for example, or they had to remove certain terms or words because of age ratings, etc. As a result, what you end up with dubs that are unusable. You just can't use it because it's missing lines. And dubbing reconstruction is basically the ability to recreate those lines that are missing, basically taking, think of an entire title. It could span across multiple episodes and seasons that suddenly becomes accessible. You already have the dubs. Why do you need to recreate them? But they're unusable. Make them usable. And the last thing that is definitely on the horizon is the live localization. So yes, this is coming. Sports and news. It's going to be very limited initially, but we believe that it's in the horizon, and it's going to be pretty exciting to see it evolve. The last thing is, and I will finish with that, is I'd like you to meet Paul Robinson from Cartoon Channel. I was talking about animation, and when you choose a partner, I think that it'll be interesting to see what Paul has to share about your partner.
I think what I'd say about working specifically with Deepdub, there are three things that I look for. One is a quality product and people who deeply understand the animation and dubbing industry. I think what you guys demonstrate to me is, you're not a technology company. You've come in to try and replace the existing dubbing industry. You're part of the dubbing industry. You understand the dubbing industry, and you're using AI to enhance what's already there. That's important. So quality of product, really important. Secondly, about delivery and on time, and about being good people to work with. And you're a lovely bunch of people, nice to work with. It's a pleasure. And I think increasingly in life, you want to work with people who are nice people and good to work with. And thirdly, I think you're being very smart the way you're using AI. You're using AI in a way that really enhances the product, gives us a great product at a better price, enables us to get into things we couldn't otherwise do. And I'm sure you're going to continue looking at how AI can further enhance the service and enhance the product you deliver. But ultimately, you are still using human beings, and you're using AI as a means to make it better. And that's why we've really enjoyed working with Deepdub, and we'll continue to work with you and hopefully have a long-term partnership with you.
Thank you, Paul. I guess the last question I have is, are you ready to join the Deepdub family? And I'll end with that, and thank you for joining us today.
Hey, thanks a lot, Oz. That was super interesting. I have my first question for you is, are screams different in different cultures and different languages?
They could be a result of different. They could basically convey different emotions, right?
Yeah.
So the way we scream out of joy is not necessarily the way it's being used, for example, in Asia.
Oh, very true. Absolutely. And like I also there's like different kinds of screams, right?
Correct.
So this morning I told you earlier, I jumped into the beautiful Puget Sound water. It was quite cold. And I was screaming because it was cold, and there were people on the beach that were screaming probably because of what little I was wearing or something like that. So different kinds of screams for different situations. Yeah, I absolutely, and that's something that you feel like pretty comfortable you can convey with AI and the models that you're using.
Absolutely, and again, like I said, it's not only the ability to convey a multitude of emotions, but it's the ability to convey it at the right moment, where it actually makes sense. Because again, just based on refer to your question, there are different types of scream. Using the right scream emotion or the right emotion at the right moment can make a whole lot of difference, whether that the result is actually sounds good or not.
Yeah, yeah. And so, I mean, the way that you do that then is with providing context into the technology, into basically the scream making machine to tell it like these are some of the attributes of this situation, or is it actually able to understand that by ingesting some of the surrounding content, or maybe a combination?
It's really a combination, because essentially, first of all, you have the ability to replicate the original performance. Just use, take that original performance, understand that there is some type of high energy in that original performance. But more than that, in the end, you have a person. And I think that's where the human creativity is still in place, which goes back to what Paul was saying. There's still that human aspect here, saying, wait a second, does that sound like what I'm expecting to hear at the end result in that target language? I'll give you an example, right? Sometimes we have experienced it where it's slightly different, but we'll explain that situation where you take a voice from one language and it conveys an entirely different character in another language, right? We had a case where we took a voice from English to French. Literally, it was a man playing it. When we transferred it into French, the customer said it sounds like a woman. So it's like how the level of how different it can sound based on based on the context, based on the language, and other aspects of the dialogue itself.
It's really, really fascinating. And you do start to realize many of the nuances in language that we just take for granted every day when we talk, and a lot of challenges to overcome. And what you're doing is phenomenal. Hey, we have quite a few great questions out here. I'll kick one off from one of our anonymous attendees. This one has to do with some of the sound effect, audio effects, and that kind of audio that's typical in production with audio effects and Foley stage work. Can AI help support, I guess, localization or translation or creation of that type of sounds, those types of sounds?
The answer is yes. In the end, it's all about how you train your models. If you're training them on creating sounds, you will be able to create sounds. In the end, it's all about just like going back to the example of the 1600s Japanese, that no one has ever trained language models to translate Japanese from 1600s. It doesn't know how to do it. It's very simple. It's the same with Foleys and Foleys and other sound effects. You train it on that type of data, it will know how to create it. As with all AI models, eventually when you're training it, you're also creating some kind of like a tagging layer on top of that data that you create, and that tagging will determine your ability to actually pull out that type of trained information or trained results out of the model. So my ability to take out content or generate voices in English is based on the fact that we tagged it in a certain way that allows us to do it. If we are training it on sound effects, photos, etc., and we tag it accordingly, we'll be able to use those tags to actually instruct the AI to generate those.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty cool. I don't know. That's a really great question. I haven't thought that much about that before, but yeah, I wonder if there's like, I don't know, copyright issues with that. Like, hey, that's my door slamming that you sampled or that you're using in that billion-dollar production. I need to get a little bit of a payback for the sound of that. That's the exhaust coming out of my car.
There you go. Well, I would say that, you know, generally with AI, it's hard to copyright what comes out of the, you know, what is automatically generated. But in our case, it's, you know, the answer is very simple, because nothing comes out of the AI that is not curated by a person in the end. But, you know, it's not, it's like I said, it's not about the technology, it's about the workflow and how you apply the technology to augment what you do rather than replace what you do. It's not replacing, it's augmenting. If I give you Photoshop with certain capabilities, you'll be able to do this type of photo designs. If I give you Photoshop with more advanced capabilities, you'll be able to do better designs, but you are still doing the designs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely still, there's the art is still there. It's just being applied in different ways, I guess. Yeah, that's super cool. Okay, so here's a question about animation. I'm just going to read it. In animation, we lay down the audio tracks before we produce the animation. Can AI produce original audio tracks before the animation is produced?
I love this question because, first of all, you know, great questions are questions that I have an answer for. And this is definitely a question I have an answer for. And the answer is definitely yes. You know, I talked a lot about localization, but AI can be used for creation. Definitely, one of the very, very cool features that that we have is the ability to do the full creation. Where it's useful for example, it's useful if you're trying to create you know, the ideation. In the ideation process for animation, the process of that the question from the viewer here talks about is, you know, you put the voices, you create the first ideation for the animation, and then it's kind of like an iterative process. You keep changing the voices, you keep updating the animation until you get to the final result. And doing it with in the ideation process today, it's pretty expensive because you have to bring people. It's very hard to convey that that process. It's very early in the process as well. And today with AI, you can imagine a director sitting on a laptop creating the entire ideation of the animation by themselves with a variety of voices. They can basically choose the emotions, they can speak the emotions. You know, many times a lot of the animation directors will tell you, I know exactly what that character is supposed to say or how to say it, but how do I get my voice actors to do it? Now they can basically just do it and replace their voice on the spot instantaneously. No training, it happens immediately. Within half a second, they can change it to multiple different voices and create the entire ideation, and of course go from there.
That's amazing. Yeah. I mean, it really is an opportunity for artists to use a completely different process to create what to create art. And who knows where that's going to go, right? It's new technology, and technology, it can, and it always has created new opportunities for brand new art forms sometimes, or different ways of certainly of producing, but creating things that we hadn't even thought of before.
Absolutely. Yeah, you're absolutely right. I'll give you another example that I think talks a lot to broadcasters. You know, again, it's not the local, it's entirely creation, right? If you have a channel, a lot of times you need to accompany your content with promos, shorts. And you may have those shorts with the content, or you may not. And you still need to create them. And that can be actually pretty costly. And those shorts that eventually will go, whether to social media or go, you know, at different spots, you know, ad spots throughout the day or throughout the week, can be detrimental for you to actually get viewers on your channel. And now with AI, you can actually do all of that pretty simply. It's a pretty straightforward. We have several broadcasting channels that are using our platform to do this by themselves. They're just, we just augmented their capabilities with AI tools, and they created the workflow around it to create the promos straight with AI in a much simpler way.
Yeah, there's a lot of focus with AI and technology on what people are worried about and how it may take over the world and things. But gosh, there's a whole bunch more really hopeful, interesting things that this technology is and people are gonna start using it for. I'm really it's very exciting. Can you talk a little bit about the cost difference in what you're doing with AI and dubbing compared to traditional dubbing? You mentioned a little bit about how it's more efficient and more cost effective. Can you provide a little bit of a double click on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So again, rough numbers, everything eventually is very specific, whether we engage in a specific language, on a project based, on strategic based, but essentially in the end, what we're seeing is somewhere between 30% in the low cost languages to 70-80% savings in terms of cost in the higher cost languages. So effectively, today, if you're dubbing into some of the European languages, you will pay a 3-figure per minute, and that number can get down to the lower 2-figure, and it's a big differentiator.
Geez, that makes it, yeah. I mean, that's cost prohibitive, right? For
Exactly.
a piece like the example that you gave of the Japanese iconic video that's not going to get dubbed because it's a really old dialect, 1600s, and so it's just not going to be available for a lot of people, right? And so that's too bad. That gets lost in a vault somewhere. And yeah, for people that are more interested in that genre, they're happy to read the subtitles, but many people aren't, and that's too bad. Who knows? Maybe one of the people that watch that video right now are inspired, and they're going to go off and start creating their version of content just like that can make an impact on the world.
Exactly.
So yeah, I think there's a lot of positive things that can come from the technology and how it gets applied. It's a question about working with actors, and I think this refers to the rights, or it specifically talks about SAG, but I think that they're really kind of referring to maybe some of the legal ramifications that are involved. They can be involved when you're generating something that's obviously created using from a gestalt of other things that have come together. Right. How do you determine who's getting paid, who's not getting paid, and have you encountered issues with regard to that?
I would say, first of all, it's a very important question. And when you choose to work with a AI vendor and with a partner, you definitely want to make sure that you're able to. First of all, the first indication, are they vetted by by other companies in the industry? Even better if they're vetted by some of the Hollywood studios, because that'll give you a sense of of how much effort has been done into addressing this type of concerns. I can tell you, for example, that we are vetted by 4 Hollywood studios. So by definition, I can tell that we've already done all of these discussions. I spent half a year with 15 lawyers on the Zoom calls, so
lucky you.
Yeah, exactly. You need a good glass of of whiskey after that. But but essentially, in the end, when you choose a partner, that's something that you need to make sure that you cross your T's and dot the I's. But I would say there is an answer, there is a way. it can be done ethically, lawfully, consensually. I know we're doing it this way. I know there are others. I know that there are others, that there are actually many that, it's not their technology. They're using someone else. They have no ID. They have no documentation trail. So you definitely want to make sure that you look into that when you choose an AI partner. But there is a way to answer that. It's longer than what we have on this call, obviously, but
Yeah,
it can be answered.
So I guess for that anonymous attendee, why don't you reach out to the good folks at Deepdub, and they can give you a more in-depth answer, I guess. There's another question also, which I think it makes sense to answer that way. Somebody wanted to see an example of animation dubbing. I don't know if you or one of your colleagues on the call right now have a link that you can drop into our chat, or maybe somebody can just reach out to you directly if they'd like to see something like that.
Yeah, I would say reach out to us. It's very easy. Paul Robinson from Cartoon Channel, was talking about the company for a reason. That's what they do. In fact, if you look back on the webinar that Sagi, my colleague, presented here about a couple months ago, he had a sample of animation that we've done for cartoon. So you could look that up and find that out. But otherwise, reach out to us. We have a plethora of examples of animation, and anime is just coming up as well. So it's pretty exciting.
Yeah. What are you talked about the next 3 to 12 months? I'm sure there'll be a ton of advancements in that amount in even that small amount of time. What are some of the bigger problems or challenges for AI, for this technology to deal with, that are kind of barriers to maybe taking it to the next level? Where does it just, doggone it, the thing got stuck there again, we can't solve that problem, or it's maybe an assumed thing that it's just no one's been able to crack this yet?
I think that really the biggest issue or challenge we have is the fact that we cannot do everything that we want to do, because in the end, we are a for-profit company. We need to answer to the board of directors like any other for-profit company. And at the end of the day, we cannot just do everything that we would have wanted to do. There are languages, just to give you an example, there are languages that are dramatically underserved in Asia, for example, that are in a dire need for localization, for localized materials. But the problem is that either the economics of it don't make sense at this point, because of where AI is still at, because by definition, cost of labor there is very, very cheap. So we cannot justify localizing with AI. One aspect of it. The second aspect is that because of the lack of interest for that's coming from the big corporations, there's just not enough funds that come in there to create even the models. So some languages just don't have don't have that models created to serve them. So I think those are challenges that are definitely solvable. It'll just take time, because in the end, it's just someone's going to do it eventually. And it's not going to be all commercial. It's going to be also, for humanitarian or social related reasons, etc. So it's going to happen. But at this point, the market is pretty driven by, the commercial need. And the commercial need comes from the US, Latin America, Europe. Those are the main markets that can justify it.
Yeah. Have you heard of any, speaking of languages, I just thought about this. Have you heard of anyone doing work with First Nation languages, or for example, Native American languages that those are in danger of being lost forever, right? There's only many speakers, but it seems like this technology could maybe reverse that, and not only produce content that you could then enjoy if you spoke one of those languages, but also help preserve those languages for generations to come.
It's the reason I'm smiling is because 20, 30, 40 years ago, we were all talking about the global village, how everything is globalized.
Esperanza.
Exactly. And now we're kind of like, we're going back into individualism, right? I want to customize my Nike, and I want to have content in my language, right?
Yeah.
Today, I mean, just like an hour ago, we got a request from a very niche language in Europe, and we have that. We have a country in Latin America where we're actually discussing with the government about preserving a native language by they are thinking there. It's not done yet, but there is a discussion to basically fund the creation of a model specifically for that language, and it goes straight exactly to what you're saying. That's a way to preserve the language because I don't know. Think about Aramaic. 2,000, 3,000 years ago.
Oh God,
no one knows how it sounds anymore.
Yeah,
it's unspoken anymore. So yeah,
that's amazing. That's really cool. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe we can start working on some Pig Latin. That'd be fun.
Klingon. Maybe dub something into Klingon.
Klingon, right? We can invent new languages. I don't know if that's invented, but yeah. Hey, thanks a lot, Oz. This has been great. If there's any other questions or folks you want to get in touch with the folks at Deepdub, you can reach out to them at their website, and I'm sure they'd love hearing from you. And thanks again, Oz, and everybody at Deepdub for that deep dive into the strategic benefits, efficiencies, and localization opportunities that AI offers for making content available to global audiences. And thanks to all of you, our dear audience, for attending and for your continued support of OTT.X. As always, session was recorded and it's going to be available on the OTT.X website at OTT.X.org. There's a bunch of other, a very impressive collection of presentations from over the last 4 years. I can't believe it. We started doing this back in 2020. I want to also mention that registration is now open for OTT.X flagship conference event, the OTT.X Summit, which will be taking place on September 25th and 26th in LA. We hope to see you all there. We have a fantastic program scheduled, replete with thought-provoking keynotes from presenters including Wall Street analyst Laura Martin and serial entrepreneur and founder of Reach TV, Linwood Bibbins, as well as a host of research presentations, deep dives, industry meetings, and working sessions. You can register for this session for this on the OTT.X website at OTT.X.org and find out everything that's going on in the OTT.X sphere. So head on out there. You can send an email to info@OTT.X.org as well. We'd love hearing from you. All right, everybody, that concludes our webinar for today. Hope you have a great rest of your day and a great rest of your week. We'll see you later in September. Oz, thanks so much. Have a great day.
Thanks, Eric. Thanks, everyone.